Hello and welcome to Spy Hard's podcast. I'm Agent Scott.
And I'm Cam the Provocateur. And Scott, I think you've forgotten your life jacket.
No.
Scott?
Hmm.
Scott,
Mhm.
I think you have forgotten your life jacket.
I'm going to take a train to London. I'll see you later.
To the captain's quarters, now.
Ooh. I'll bring the butter.
Oh my. Oh my.
Oh my. We've got an interesting episode this week to talk about. An interesting film, I should say. This is the episode. The film is what we talk about. I'm discombobulated already. There was a lack of butter in this film that really threw me off. But before we get there, I just want to talk about the show. Because we're on the eve of something truly special in the month of July, and we're going to talk to you all about that at the end of the episode. But to help prepare, we're going to put out sort of the bat signal, but we need like a spy version of the bat signal. What would you say that is, Cam?
The hard signal?
That probably would get you on a register somewhere. I'm flashing the hard signal outside this elementary school.
Would it just be
arrested?
Would it be the spy signal?
I was thinking of something a bit more like in depth, like something a bit deeper in our oeuvre.
Is there anything that rhymes with bat?
Like you can't say the condor signal because we've done that joke to death.
Where comedy goes to die.
Well, whatever signal it is, I don't know. I'm not imaginative. Clearly, strap in, folks. It's going to be a good episode. But we're putting that out because there's a lot of ways you can support the show. Patreon being the first one with a bullet. There's a link in the show notes below. We talk about it in the middle of the show, put a little ad there, but we don't often talk about it before or at the end. So just a reminder, if you don't know, we have a Patreon where we talk about spy TV shows and films from your favorite spy actors. And basically, it just helps to keep the show running because it actually costs money to put Spy Hards on the air. So if you can come and join us over there, we've got a great group of people. Come and join us. And you can get over 100 bonus episodes. And I think if you add it all up, it pretty much puts our entire output to 500 episodes.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I don't think there's any episodes on the Patreon that are related to the movie we're going to talk about today, but all sorts of stuff. We've looked at the Star Wars prequels. We have looked at some of the X-Men films, as well as just like 80s stuff, or, like we did Towering Inferno from the 70s. It's kind of a potpourri of all sorts of movies. It's basically the way we pitched it internally on the podcast was
we put out a memo to ourselves.
That's right. Was because it's the Patreon, it's all killer, no filler. Whereas on the main feed, you get the filler sometimes, where you get these obscure films that you've never heard of, and we're like, well, we got to tackle these on the way to doing Bond or Bourne films or Mission Impossible. You have to look at the smaller ones that are forgotten. Over on the Patreon, it's all the hits, baby.
Yeah, and you're forgetting some of the less franchisey films like, Thomas Crown Affair, Knives Out. We've done stuff like that over there. Plus, with Spy TV, Slow Horses, we've done all that there. So if you want to get that sort of extra Spy Hards, spice up your podcast feed, as I like to say, come and take a look over there. But the other way to support us, and it's absolutely free, it's just to join us on social media. If you're not following us on X or Instagram or Blue Sky, come and find us on there. We're always posting about interesting spy stuff. Give us a little reply, retweet, whatever you'd like to do. Get involved, and that really just helps signal boost the show to other people, because ultimately it's about sharing a delicious serving of butter.
You are going to have to explain that joke to people.
I don't want to.
Because I think that episode came out like 3 years ago.
Well, it's interesting. It's actually one of my questions when we get to this film. It is, what is your memory of the film this is sort of a sequel to?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
But hey, let's give the folks what they turned up for. Conrad, Veidt, Valerie, Hobson. Let's get to it, Cam. Roll the review. Okay, you beautiful people. Let's have some spy jinx. Cam, what are we talking about?
We are talking about 1940s Contraband, a.k.a. Blackout, a Powell and Pressburger production starring Conrad Veidt and Valerie Hobson, as you said in the intro.
Yeah, it's also sort of a loose sequel in the sense of it's the same people behind the lens and in front of it. to A Spy in Black, which is a film we tackled many years ago. I think actually made the knock list.
It did indeed. That was a fantastic movie that, for those who haven't caught The Spy in Black, which also had the title, I think, U-Boat 29, it is available on YouTube and 100% worth checking out.
And I'll also add, so is this film.
Yeah, this is a fun film.
Yeah, I don't mean the film being fun. I mean it's available on YouTube.
That too.
Yeah. Oh, Cam's already shading in.
We call it FunTube.
Is that a Canadian thing?
Sure.
We're going to Dunkin' Donuts and going on the FunTube.
Hey, to the FunTube.
And then that's why they banned it for you over there as well.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm making Canada sound like North Korea with your internet access at the moment.
I can't even see your face because we're not allowed to have video. So.
Oh, I see. So really, you're just looking at a video representation of your own face.
Yeah, that's right. I'm actually on a rotary telephone. I could just hear you.
There's no screen in front of you. It's just a picture of me you're talking to.
That's right.
Like an A4 framed photo of Scott that you're caressing lovingly.
But it's a hand-drawn photo.
Oh, boy. I've seen what your drawing skills are like, and I don't want to see that picture.
It's like a stick man with a squiggly smiley face.
It's fortunate you chose a stick man because they're naturally bald as well. So.
Oh, true.
Yeah. You're saving ink on my hair.
That's right. And we can't afford ink here.
That's why we mentioned the Patreon. We're so poor. Cam can't even get internet access over there.
I drew this with coal.
One wonders how he uploads episodes or makes Patreon content, but we won't get into the science behind it. Well, let's talk about Contraband, aka Blackout. I mean, should we have a decision ahead of time as to what we're going to call this film throughout this review?
Contraband. Contraband's the original title. Blackout was the American title when it was released later.
Well, we've drawn a line in the sand. We're going with Contraband. Here is your synopsis. And interestingly, the top line feels like someone shouting because it's in all caps. So would you like me to act it for you?
Just lean away from the mic, please, for my benefit when I'm editing.
Okay, here we go. Stop that man and woman! His mission is deadlier than that of the enemy in the sky. Her beauty is a dangerous weapon of war.
Okay, the enemy in the sky. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's because of the blackout?
Well, yeah, I mean, they were doing the blackouts because obviously fear of bombings, but there's...
Thank you for telling me British history. Keep going.
You're welcome. I'd like to continue. Scott, please. I'll get to the Blitz in a second, which I know you've never heard of. But
who? Wolf Blitzer? Right, yeah.
You thought it was a band. But the thing is, like, bombings, and the Blitz had not happened at the time of this movie, I believe, when they shot this. So that's not really an element of the movie. Like, they aren't under threat of bombings throughout the film, really.
Well, that's why they're blacking out, so that the bombers can't hit them.
Well, I agree. Like, that's specifically why they're doing it. I agree with you.
You agree with the blackouts. Okay, all right. I think the blackouts were a good idea. Cam Smith 2025. Go on.
But did you ever feel in the movie like there was a threat of them being bombed at any point?
I quite like the warden and the police officers just shouting at people going, "Oi, turn your light off, mate." But other than that, no, not really.
It's more atmospheric than anything. It's not like there's this kind of sense of impending danger.
And I actually think it slightly hinders the film, which I'll come back to.
Okay.
But here is the rest of the synopsis. And to be fair, this is the actual plot part. And it's not in all caps, so I can talk normally. When a neutral Danish merchant ship is forced to put into port after trying to evade British wartime contraband control, its captain becomes involved in a beautiful British naval intelligence agent's efforts to capture a group of German spies operating from a London cinema.
That was a real mouthful you had there to say.
That was like real tongue twister stuff there. Like what was it? Its captain becomes involved in a beautiful British naval intelligence agent's efforts.
Oh my God, that is not easy to say. So props to you for making it through it.
I am a very model of a modern major general.
Oh, there we go. Gilbert and Sullivan.
Thank you for telling me more of my history, Cam. I love it when you do that. Next year, we're like the Bay of Pigs. Let me tell you about that.
Have you heard of the King, Scott?
Which one, Cam?
You know, the one.
Oh, yes. No, Neo, I guess. Well, I think there has only been one king in the eye of King Charles II or whatever he is at the moment. So he is the meaty fingered king.
Is that a thing? I had never actually heard that term.
Have you ever seen his fingers?
No. Are they like Desmond Llewellyn's?
Like, as in, like, really puffy.
Yeah, he has like really big hands. You see that, especially in the later Bond films.
He's dead. Sorry, Cam.
Well, that's true. That's true.
he's still got it in the casket. His fingers are huge.
Well, yeah, but you watch those later Bond films. Is that what like Charles has?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay. No, I was not aware of that.
Next time you see his hands, you'll be like, "Good lord!" Like, it's a wonder he gets any rings on his fingers. Actually, they're all probably just trapped there.
Yeah, I'm not, I guess, a big follower of the royal family. I don't know
Or
if you
their hands.
I don't know if you know, Scott, but they're at Buckingham Palace, which is close to you if you ever wanted to visit.
I mean, I took a guy called Cam there once, but it must have not been you.
It was actually pretty much sealed off because there was like a marathon going.
That is true. That is true. And to be fair, Cam, he's also your king.
Scott, we'll get to that lesson later down the road for you.
Oh right. Sorry, I haven't learned what the Commonwealth is. Sorry, I should get back in my seat. Yes. Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you, sir. Please continue.
I don't know if I have anything left to say.
Oh, okay, right. I guess I'll just keep doing my job. Right. Well, let's talk about the film a little bit. I mean, obviously, we mentioned the connection to A Spy in Black. That's going back in our history. A very early episode for us there. One to track down, but I'd say the film's definitely worth it because it made the knock list.
Yeah. And it was a total surprise knock list, which are sometimes the really fun ones. Because when we are sitting down to do a review of Casino Royale 2006, we kind of know how that episode is going to shake out in the end. But you get every now and again a real surprise. And I think of also Five Fingers or M. Butterfly.
King Charles is Five Fingers.
That's true. He does. But, you know, like those movies we didn't see coming. We sat down and watched them independently and we're like, oh my God, like this is really cool. And then sit down and do the episodes. And it kind of makes it that much more exciting because it's a sense of discovery.
Yeah, you're finding a hidden gem. That's part of the beauty. You made a comment about like sometimes we have the dregs on the show. I don't look at it that way. I see all of these as an opportunity to find something we've never seen before.
Sure.
Another one like Tonight We Raid Calais. Didn't make the knock list, but moments from that film still stick with me.
I mean, moments from British Agent still stick with me.
I couldn't tell you what that film was. Honestly, couldn't tell you.
That was the Russian Revolution one.
Okay. Is that the one with George Sanders in it?
No, that was Lancer Spy.
See? Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
But I think, like, because neither you nor I have seen this film. So we haven't really got to go into our personal backstories with it. But what I think is interesting to discuss is how long this film has evaded us.
Yes, and why is that, Scott? Because we had planned to review this, I think, at least
Hang
twice.
on, did you just ask me to answer and then answer it yourself?
No, I'm setting up like we had been intending to review this movie twice in the past. And why did that not happen?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for giving me something. So basically, this film has terrible distribution.
Yeah.
And it's frequently uploaded to YouTube. It is currently at time of recording, and I think probably will be at time of release. But it has been on our list to tackle, and then because we plan quite far ahead, like at the moment, right now, we've got sort of through to October plan, something like that. We go, okay, we're going to do Contraband. Great. And then it will disappear off YouTube.
Yeah.
And then we just can't do it. And we were always keen to see what the follow-up to A Spy in Black, or The Spy in Black, I should say, was like, because we really enjoyed that film. So you and I were both like, oh, there is this sort of a quasi-sequel. Let's go. But we could never, ever make it happen. Until now.
Yes. And there's a couple of those, because there's an early Elizabeth Taylor movie as well that we have been meaning to tackle, but comes and goes randomly, and it's been very difficult to track down, especially in the UK. And so we have, this master list of spy movies to tackle, but a number of these older ones, they are not easy to pin down.
So I'm glad we could finally make it happen because, I'm not saying about the film, but I'm glad we could finally get around to discussing this because this has actually been one we've been messaged about a couple of times as well. Like, hey guys, did you know that Spy in Black has a sequel? Yes, we did. We just couldn't make it happen until now, but here we are.
That's right. Although not really a sequel, more of just a reunion with the creative team, but yes.
It's like a quasi, I swear there's a few films in Hollywood in recent years that have done that and brought the same team together to do something else. I always think of like A Fish Called Wanda, and then it had a sequel.
Not as well. Fierce Creatures, which is it's not a sequel because it's not continuing any story elements.
I know what you mean, but you know what I mean, as in like it's got the same team behind it and the same actors.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't like either film.
Oh, I love Fish Called Wanda, but Fierce Creatures was it was not great.
Okay. So is this a Fierce Creatures? We'll find out. But yeah, there is no connective tissue with the two of us. So Cam, why don't you just take us behind the scenes, unveil the curtain so we're not blacked out anymore, and show us the contraband materials.
Okay, so I said this was a Powell and Pressburger film. Now, who are they? They were known as the Archers and made a lot of movies together. Movies like The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, The Red Shoes, One of Our Aircraft is Missing, a lot of classic films. But this is really early in their filmography, very early. The Spy in Black was actually their first film together. And so the case with this movie was, it was intended as sort of a reunion. Look, we had a lot of success with The Spy in Black. Let's do it again. So let's start with the director, Michael Powell, who has obviously a director credit on this film, but also a scenario credit. He was the co-writer of the scenario or story, as it would be known now, and English director-writer, and started directing in 1930 with some uncredited work on a movie called Cast, and then did in 1931 a murder mystery called Rhinox, which is a kind of fun name, actually. You don't come across a movie called Rhinox every day. But his big breakthrough was 1939's The Spy in Black. He'd been working dutifully in the system, but that movie was a legit hit, and it was co-written by Emmerich Pressburger, who was a Hungarian Jew who'd worked in German and French film, and then traveled to London as a sanctuary at the start of World War II. And he had also started his career in 1930, and he started doing that, co-writing a relationship drama called Farewell, and then continued onward. In 1936, had an American film called One Rainy Afternoon, and then you had The Spy in Black 3 years later, which paired these two men up, and history was made. They would be making 20 films together over the course of their careers.
I mean, that's quite an achievement. Are we the modern day Powell and Pressburger?
So if they're the Archers, what are we?
The Farchers?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Don't you put me on the spot and I gave you the best I had, okay? That's why we're the Farchers.
Sometimes the best is not good enough.
Welcome to Spy Hards, everyone. The second best James Bond podcast in the world.
So yes, Contraband is the second of 20 films. And Pressburger at a certain point would be the co-director. And the two of them would share that duty on films like some of the ones I mentioned earlier, like The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, Red Shoes, Black Narcissus, and many others. Notably, though, while this is a Powell and Pressburger film, there was another writer who actually worked on the film as well, who had a screenplay credit. And that is Brock Williams, who was an English writer, occasional director. I think he directed like 2 or 3 films. Also started in 1930. Everyone was starting in 1930 with their careers who worked on this movie behind the scenes.
If I'm doing my math, when did World War I end?
1918, wasn't it?
Okay, so people being born during the war, coming of age in the 1930. No, it doesn't quite add up.
No. But I enjoyed traveling down that road with Scott.
Thank you. This is why Cam teaches me in these episodes, and I don't teach him.
I would also like it noted that you asked me when World War I ended.
You're right. Yeah, you're actually. I will take my lick on that one. Thank you. I had a suspicion, but I didn't want to make a fool of myself by committing to a number, and what I had thought was correct. But again, I bow to you, sir. I mean, you've been alive for so long. You were there.
That's right. I'm so old. So old. I'm like the knight in Last Crusade, except I'm allowed to leave the den. I'm allowed to travel outside and see the outside world.
Yeah, but at least he has a job that's worthwhile. What do you do?
This. Oh, God. Oh, God.
You definitely chose poorly.
I'm waiting for a pillar to fall on top of me.
I'm just going to jump down that chasm now, I think.
So Brock Williams got his kind of big breakthrough with a 1931 drama called Almost a Divorce. So Brock Williams first worked with Michael Powell on a 1934 film called Something Always Happens about a gas station rivalry.
As in between two gas stations?
Correct, yes.
What sort of rivalry could you have? Gas prices?
Yeah, it was about like which one could make more money than the other.
That feels like an episode of Cheers.
Or that TV show Corner Gas, which was very popular in Canada. Yeah.
Oh, of course, the show I know very well.
Yeah, no one knows it outside of Canada. I don't watch it.
That was my point.
It's one of those things that's like a Canadian TV show, but even Canadians, I think a lot of Canadians watch it and just go, "Oh God, oh God."
My wife has been recently watching Northern Exposure. Is that something you guys liked?
It was popular here. I've never seen it.
Okay, I think it's set in Alaska, so I can't really say it's Canadian, but yeah. That's about as close as I'm getting. That or Twin Peaks. Both of those things don't take place in your country.
Yeah, that doesn't help at all, Scott. So thanks for your contributions.
I'm always here with the insight. That's actually why you read the intro, like the sort of behind the scenes stuff, and I don't, because I'm just here like collecting my thoughts.
Sure, if you'd said Due South, that would be a more Canadian show, but you didn't.
No, I know Due South, but Hannah hasn't been watching Due South. I can't make stuff up. You know, Cam, Hannah's been watching the Canadian news recently. Do you know that? The Canadian news?
And that's what we call it here, the Canadian news.
Just every channel. Hey, welcome to Canadian news at 6 p.m. And I'm Scott Hardy.
Oh, boy. So Brock Williams and Powell collaborated on a few films. Contraband marked the end, though, because obviously he found Pressburger. And in 1943, Brock Williams would go on and write a little film called Candlelight in Algeria,
Yay!
starring James Mason.
Hey, James Mason in a fez. Who could ask for more?
Exactly, yes. And he worked until the early 60s and had an idea credit on Carry On Constable.
Man, I wonder how much that pays.
Not much, right?
I had an idea once.
No one was willing to pay you for it.
No. Well, it was this show.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. See the Patreon plug at the start of the episode, folks.
Please.
So this was actually considered the first British film
ever
to deal directly with World War II.
Oh.
Because Spy in Black was set during World War I, and they would often use World War I as sort of a parallel for the beginnings of World War II, but this was the first movie to actually tackle World War II.
Like, seriously, in all films created, this is the first film that tackled World War II.
The first British film, yeah.
Ah, okay. Well, still.
Yeah, no, that's very important.
Yeah. Fair play.
Yeah.
That's actually a cool bit of history. Of all the things this film has, and has mostly been forgotten, that is a pretty cool calling card for it.
Yeah. And the goal of the film was to obviously reunite the two leads from Spy in Black, but also to create a patriotic picture that would promote the capabilities of the Royal Navy.
I mean, the film does start off with a lot of loving shots of boats.
And the Navy is shown to be very capable, right? Like, they are able to
collect that boat very quickly.
Very quickly, and they are very efficient. And you have, Conrad Veidt being like, oh boy, we can't hide anything from the British Navy.
Do you reckon anyone joined up based off of this film?
That's an excellent question. I feel like it doesn't kind of like play the drum as much for like the patriotic element the way that some later war films would, which I think were probably more effective at doing that.
Well, American films particularly would lean very heavy on it. We're a bit more subtle here.
There was some British war films we tackled on this show that were pretty patriotic.
Sure, but there's no like how stand the Union moment.
No, that's quite true. But this was also a very rare heroic role for Conrad Veidt,
yes.
A guy who obviously played a lot of villains and a lot of kind of anti-hero types or tragic figures. Not a lot of like dashing romantic leads.
No, I mean I was genuinely expecting this to be he's playing a Nazi.
I did too. I thought he was the villain off the top. It feels like they're playing with your expectations of him being cast in that role too.
And Spy in Black, he was a German.
Yeah.
He was the enemy.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I like the subversion. It's one of the things I've got written down.
Yeah, and I mentioned Brock Williams having a co-writing credit on the screenplay, but according to Powell and Pressburger, they wrote this film, the shooting script together, laughing and fighting, biting and scratching, with input from the two leads. So sorry, Brock Williams, they're kicking you to the curb.
That's a real idea credit right there, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know what Brock Williams contributed, but it seems that as obviously Powell and Pressburger would go on to big things and give interviews, they kind of took the credit for this one over to themselves.
History is written by the victors.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Well, I do like the idea of them two biting and kicking with each other while they make a film. I guess they'd be modern day podcasters because that's what we do off air is just tickle each other.
That's true. And the Blackout, concept was something that obviously was happening in London at the time, but the Archers loved the concept of the Blackout for a film and saw a lot of possibilities in how they could use that in an adventure story or sort of a mystery story.
Yeah, for sure. I think in a more modern retelling of this, if you were ever going to do that, you might shoot it differently. But
yeah, well, you have such like superior camera equipment nowadays. Like you could do a lot more.
Color.
Yeah. I mean, what could 4K do with shooting like a Blackout versus a camera in that time period?
Yeah, and also like transfers.
Yeah.
Like what are we watching?
Right. It would have been interesting to actually see Alfred Hitchcock do a movie with like a Blackout. I think he could have done something cool.
Well, this film feels like it's got half of its foot in the Hitchcock world.
I mean, this is made in the wake of movies like The 39 Steps and The Man Who Knew Too Much. So, I think there is a little bit of a nod to those types of films for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one scene in particular that I think makes a very overt nod to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this movie was also supposed to be the film debut of Deborah Kerr, who is the iconic actress from The King and I, From Here to Eternity, An Affair to Remember, one of the biggest stars of her time period. She shot a small role in this movie as a cigarette girl in the club they visit, and her scenes ended up hitting the cutting room floor. So she was not debuting in this movie ultimately.
More like Deborah Canned.
Right. But Powell, who at one point was her boyfriend, ended up casting her in The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, and more notably Black Narcissus, which made her a known name and led to an MGM contract that ultimately gave her worldwide stardom.
It all started here.
Mm-hmm. I thought you were going to maybe sing a King and I song, but I somewhat suspect you can't sing a King and I song.
How dare you? I've seen The King and I.
Uh-huh. Okay. Oh, you're proving me wrong. Okay, like belt it out there, Scott.
Yeah, anyway, so let's get back to the show. No, I saw it as a kid. I don't remember anything from it.
Sure. So the budget for this film...
Yul Brynner, right?
That's right. Yeah, Yul Brynner. Yeah, he won, I think, Best Actor for that film at the Oscars. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't remember if she won. She might have, actually, for this movie. Or for that movie.
I can't believe she tried to check my cinephile card on air.
So the budget for this movie was £35,000. And the film was completed on schedule and under budget. And it was a huge hit in London and beyond. When it traveled to America, they changed the name to Blackout, just as they had changed the name from The Spy in Black to U-Boat 29.
Which do you think is better, though?
I think Blackout is the better title than Contraband.
I think I would agree with you. I think Blackout is more mysterious.
Yes. And actually, I believe it was Powell said he wished they'd come up with that title and he preferred it.
Oh, well, I'll have posters up all week of both. Listeners at home, you can choose which one you prefer.
Yeah, he loved like the double meaning of it and just felt like it was more evocative to what the movie is. Which do you prefer, The Spy in Black or U-Boat 29?
The Spy in Black.
Agreed, yeah.
Yeah, U-Boat 29 doesn't say anything.
Yeah, U-Boat 29 is pretty weak.
And also, it's not really part of the film. There's a U-boat by the islands, and it almost picks him up. That's about it.
Yeah, no, agreed on that one. So the top three for the year. Number one was Boomtown, which was a Western with Clark Gable, Spencer Tracy, Claudette Colbert, and Hedy Lamarr. Big star vehicle. And number two was The Great Dictator, the Charlie Chaplin film, which was obviously a big cry against the oncoming threat of fascism.
Yep.
And number three was Rebecca, Alfred Hitchcock's film. We talked about him earlier. Now, this was actually Conrad Veidt's last film made in Great Britain. He left for Hollywood shortly after this movie wrapped and never came back.
More fool him.
I mean, he was in Casablanca. He did just fine.
More fool him. Conrad Veidt, more like Conrad's Flight. Am I right?
No kidding. Flight Risk.
Oh. Wow. Where am I today?
Powell, later talking about this movie, referred to it as pure corn, but did recognize the importance of its national pride. And he said, it explained how contraband control was being operated against neutrals and why the Royal Navy had set up control at Ramsgate on the east coast of Kent. I thrilled to my Kentish toes at the prospect of showing how my country, with her long and vulnerable seacoast and her defenseless harbors, was already taking the war against Hitler into what he had the cheek to call the German Ocean. Pressburger and I saw a chance to prove once more that films can be a weapon of war.
What a silly thing to do, renaming an ocean. Who'd do that?
I can't imagine anyone else ever doing that ever again.
All right, we've frolicked around. We're at customs. They're about to check our boxes, and I know what I've got in there, and it's some risque stuff. So let's get to the review before they come and arrest me. Contraband, Cam. Contraband. What do you think?
I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it was novel to see Conrad Veidt as your hero, especially when they kind of pull the rug out from under you, because they portray him up front as not seeming to be the most trustworthy, being a little hard-edged, and you're like, what's with this guy? And we know that there is something being smuggled on the ship, it seems, and he seems like the kind of guy who would be the one smuggling it. But I like the way that there was that twist, and it's like, this guy is thrown into an espionage mission, and he's really like curmudgeonly. Like he's like grumbling a lot, completely out of his element, and having to play it as he goes along. He's very different than like a Hitchcock hero. You know, you'll look at some of like the people thrown into spy situations in Hitchcock movies. You know, Cary Grant in North by Northwest or Robert Donat in 39 Steps. These are like outwardly charming, charismatic guys who are maybe Hitchcock's idea of everymen, but are they really? Is Jimmy Stewart in The Man Who Knew Too Much remake an everyman, or Doris Day for that matter?
I mean, they really try by like putting him in sweaters and stuff, but I think ultimately, like, it's still Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's married to Doris Day. That's like a power couple. That is not the couple next door. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and Conrad Veidt isn't an everyman in this movie, but he's someone when you see him thrown into a situation like this, seems like someone who is less likely to adapt to it. He seems quite like strict in his ways. And I thought that was kind of a fun hook for the movie. I think this one does fall short, though, of The Spy in Black, which felt a little more focused, a little more in kind of... it had a better idea as the story it wanted to tell, and it did it pretty seamlessly. I think this one kind of gets a little slow-paced at times, but it is very charming, and there's a lot of funny moments we can talk about as we continue through the review. But, you know, it's a movie that, like, I think people sometimes have this attitude of these Spy Hard specials, and I say this without any evidence backing me up, but, like, they go, oh, like, that's some, you know, old, creaky movie on YouTube. And I think if you actually go and give this movie a chance, you'll find a lot of it is actually quite, you know, kind of like sparkling and fun to watch.
And also informative to maybe what you know as a film viewer of spy movies, because a lot of the language of James Bond and Mission Impossible is all from the 40s and 30s.
Yeah.
It's iterated upon and improved upon and made more cinematic and more digestible. But ultimately, a lot of the sort of tropes started here.
And also, Powell and Pressburger are massive talents in the world of film. You know, Scorsese is called The Red Shoes, the greatest film of all time. And, like, this is their origin story, The Spy in Black in this film.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. I think it. I think I went in initially with the wrong expectations. I think I was looking for something that equated to The Spy in Black,
Right. Yeah.
and I was disappointed trying to find that. And I think somewhere during the film, I just sort of realized this is not going tonally for the same thing. This is far more light-hearted. This is far sort of. It's far quicker. It's got a bit of a more of a clip to it, more of a pulse to it. It's a bit more frenetic. It doesn't really like stop and dwell upon the sort of characters and their motivations. It's really more of a, hey, guys in a situation with a girl, they're in a restaurant and the servers are a bit crazy. Go.
It's like a caper.
I wrote caper is the word I wrote down.
Yeah.
And I think once I got rid of that expectation, I felt a lot better about it. This film is still like, Hobson and Veidt still have a fantastic chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
There's no denying that. And Conrad Veidt is a star. The guy is magnetic. He oozes charisma. And Valerie Hobson is not one to look away from. She is quite the smoke show.
Mm.
And there are genuine moments of comedy in here. But when I had left it, I just felt kind of, oh, okay. Huh, all right. Yeah. Like, there were things in there I probably will remember about this film, but I didn't, like some of the other Spy Hard specials, to use that term, I didn't walk out of it feeling like I'd actually, like, learnt something, or my life had changed, or I had grown a new favorite film.
Well, there was a lot of depth to the Conrad Veidt character in The Spy in Black, where like he was sort of the.
It was like an internal pull. Like he was torn between his country and love.
Yeah, and like he was the antagonist of the film, but you also understood where he was coming from, and the movie was like interested in delving into his thoughts and decisions.
Yeah,
that's not the case with this movie. This is like a very like 39 Steps-ish kind of romantic caper where he's trying to track down Valerie Hobson, who could be a spy. We're not exactly sure for a while. And it's him following her around and finally, catching up with her. And then the two of them embarking on solving an espionage plot that I think, when you break it down, is incredibly simplistic. Like the German villains, the German spies here in this film, this is 1939. They're making this movie.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have kind of the depth. And I mean, look, there's a lot of, World War II era films that have fifth columnists as the villains, or Nazi spies, German spies, however they're categorized in the individual films. But in certain cases, in the better cases, they find ways to give those characters at least sort of an interesting angle on them.
Yeah.
Or some sort of depth. I mean, they're not going to portray them as particularly sympathetic during wartime. That's more Eagle Has Landed kind of stuff in the 70s, where they're like, let's do something weird and bold. That's not the case in the 1940s. But
let's have Michael Caine kill Churchill.
Right, exactly, yeah. And right along with him. Like, that's kind of a very... kind of a stunning creative decision they made with that movie. But here, the villains are as simplistic as it gets. And there's just not a lot there when you're watching the movie. It really depends on how much fun you can have watching Valerie Hobson and Conrad Veidt bounce off one another.
Yeah, and I think they do, when they are together, they do kind of sizzle. There is a moment in this film where they do sideline Valerie Hobson for about 20 odd minutes.
Yeah.
And I think that is to the detriment of the film.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think I walked out like disliking this film. That is not what I'm getting across. And I do think that the specter of The Spy in Black does loom over this a little bit for me. As in, I was hoping for something more. And that's not, and this is obviously pitched as a tonally different film. It is hard to compare. But I know they've got it in them to make a perhaps a more lighthearted film.
Well, not only that, it's like Powell and Pressburger would go on to become, masterful filmmakers. And when you watch Alfred Hitchcock do something like The 39 Steps, he's taking this kind of fun, fly by the seat of your pants material, but elevating it.
Yeah.
And I think there's like moments here that elevate it, but I don't think overall they elevate the entire project.
Yeah, you look at like the helicopter scene in 39 Steps, where
Yeah.
it's chasing Robert Donat over the moors. Huge
Mm-hmm.
scope to that. Big spectacle. I've seen it on the big screen. It still looks great. There's no moment in this film that has that scope.
I mean, I guess you would say, in terms of what they're trying to deliver that is sort of special to the film, it's the Blackout stuff.
Yeah.
And there are fun moments. I like the bit where Hobson's character offers to buy a torch or flashlight for Veidt, and Veidt's like, I don't need it. When I'm at sea, I can see across the Atlantic in the dark, that kind of thing. And then immediately bumps into someone.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, and there are lots of little moments like that. Or, Valerie Hobson walking to breakfast in the morning without her life jacket on.
Yeah.
And that sort of visual comedy of that. All kinds of things we can talk about. The guy on the bus. I just thought that was... I mean, I've been that guy in between someone's conversation. It is awkward as F.
Yeah.
But let's talk about things that did work about the film. I have more likes than dislikes.
Why don't you start?
Yeah, sure. Well, I was going to, but thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I think the first thing you have to discuss is the whole idea of pitching Conrad Veidt against type.
Yeah.
And it works gangbusters. The guy is a charismatic leading man. And yes, he is is he of German descent? Is he from Germany?
I believe he is, yeah.
Obviously, he made the right choice to get out of town. And but most of the films I've seen Conrad Veidt in, Spy in Black or All Through the Night, he's playing a German baddie. So to see him play more of a heartthrob, it's just refreshing, and it goes to show just the guy's range, and also the guy is just magnetic. Like every scene he walks into, he also towers over almost everyone in this film.
I made a note that this man is not set out for a life at sea. He's like bumping his head on the ceiling of every boat.
Yeah, me and you are better at that, I think. We're
That's
two
right.
little gremlins in our little ship.
We would be the first officer that Petrie played. Yeah.
Oh, the guy just sort of like frolics around the entire film.
The guy who also plays his like cousin or whatever, or brother.
Is it the same actor?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I know about that. So yeah, I guess my first like and my biggest like is Conrad Veidt himself. Crackerjack actor, and he holds this film. He carries it the entire way through, and he is excellent.
Well, I mean, also he's very funny,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't play, at least in my experience, a lot of crack up characters. And some of the like funniest moments in the entire film are pairing him with Hobson, and the moments where it's like how much he kind of sticks out and is unable to operate seamlessly in this kind of caper story, and like the fact that like calling a cab and Valerie Hobson kind of puts on the seductive like taxi, and the cab like immediately pulls up, and then you have Conrad Veidt going taxi.
I don't think that was a cab that pulled up for her. I think it was just two blokes trying to get her in their car.
I think it was, but like the fact that like
that's me and you in the film.
That's right, but like the fact that she's like calling out these kind of like seductive calls for cars, and everyone's racing to get her, and he's just like taxi, like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, and you could see this sort of that visual gag working in a film that perhaps has more money and is filmed in many more years later. Like I could see in a 1980s comedy where a girl holds a handkerchief out and goes taxi, and then like 8 taxis slam into each other and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
You can see that with a bit more money, how that would have an impact. But yeah, it still works here, and I think he gets less comedy than Valerie Hobson gets to do.
Mm-hmm.
But when he does do it, it's great. And I also appreciate the fact that he can go from doing those comedy moments to the action moments, because he has like a shootout later, has a couple of fist fights. But he also has this sort of gentlemanly captain at sea thing, especially at the beginning of the film where he's being audited for contraband. And it's all very gentlemanly, and he just looks the part of a captain. I've never seen someone just look like a captain until I saw Roger Moore in Folks. North Sea Hijack, I should say. He looked like a captain there. But yeah, Conrad Veidt gets a thumbs up from me.
Well, I love the moment where he walks in on the girl doing the leg exercises.
Yeah.
And it's like this towering 6 foot something guy, kind of like grizzled looking and tough, and just immediately like shrinking the second he walks in and sees her. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry."
Also, it kind of like no sells it really. Just walks through, takes the newspaper, and leaves. She's like, "Oh, Captain, hello," and he's like, "Nope, newspaper, goodbye."
Those are the exercises you do every morning as well.
I'm doing them now.
Yeah.
What about you, Cam?
I thought for me, like, it was kind of the energy of the movie. It was when it was like kind of operating on all cylinders and finding ways to have that kind of espionage element move. And I'm thinking a lot of like Conrad Veidt on the train trying to track down Hobson and her accomplice. And they're hiding behind variety newspapers. And it's him just like trying to like almost x-ray stare through those papers, and it's playful, it's fun, and I think that kind of tone is when the movie's really working. And that's the movie to me. Was like, okay, we're watching characters, and Valerie Hobson is like very good at like the late comedy as well, and to see the two of them just tossed into situations we've seen 1,000 times. We've seen countless movies at this point in the podcast run where it's like, okay, how many times have we seen a man and a woman on the run happening into circumstances? Think of the 39 Steps remake we tackled from the 50s. Like, that was it done.
I try not to.
Yeah, that was it done pretty poorly. And to me, there was enough scenarios in this. Like, there's the whole nightclub fight at the end as well that I thought was really fun. I like the idea of this ragtag group of, like, restaurant staff and Conrad Veidt going club to club and asking about a banjo player. And they're like, "No banjo, we're out of here." They all get up and leave. And when they finally find the place, the way they arrange like a big fist fight, that's, there's a lot of older movies where they have like fist fight sequences that are way too long. Way too long. And this one was like the right length. It was very fun and silly, and I was there for it.
It was kind of verging into yakety sack territory with that.
Sure.
But also, Conrad Veidt's not part of that. He's off to the side doing the spy mission, trying to get Valerie Hobson back. It's just, that's a sort of distraction brawl. So you can forgive it because it's more meant to distract the Germans. Yeah,
and I mean, obviously, the chef, I think that's Eric. Eric Skold is the character's name, I think. Or it's Axel Skold. I'm not sure which is which. But that's also a fun comedic performance as well. And it's the kind of thing I thought might get annoying. When he first showed up, I was like, oh, this character is a little too big. But I thought by the end, when he was embroiled in fisticuffs, I thought that actually was pretty fun.
I actually lean more on the having a little bit of enough of him by the end.
Yeah.
It was a little bit wacky for me, a little bit too broad.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that all ties into my wanting this to be a more serious film than it was. And that's probably not fair of a criticism. But it does feel a little bit of a contrast to the more grounded comedy that Hobson and Veidt are doing. Whereas his character feels just huge. Yeah,
he is definitely like the electricity, lightning bolt, big comedy character of the movie.
Yeah, for sure. Also, just want to shout out the some of the set work in this film. Like the boat is great, the train is great, but the cinema, the theater, the Nickelodeon was fantastic. All those different levels, and they all sort of tied together, and it just sort of worked with that elevator going through it, and then there's a boiler room at the bottom where like the light shining in from the lift and the darkened room.
Yeah,
they did a lot with a little with that.
The reveal of that like cinema when they pull open the window there was really the mirror. It was really cool. I thought, a great reveal, and it's something that's relatively simple, but at the same time, I was like, I don't think I've seen that before in a spy movie. And again, that's always exciting. And I will say, like, the cabaret, like the big club they go to ultimately where they have the fight, was really cool and had some production numbers which were neat. But I will say, Scott, when I saw that opening credit, white N-word, the slightly less offensive one, cabaret, designed and executed by Hedley Briggs. Well,
I mean, there's 5 clubs they go to.
Yeah.
I wrote the names down, which we can come back to later, but one of them is what you just said. I'm not going to repeat it, but yeah. That didn't age well, but I guess that was it was meant to be a mixed club where anyone could go to. That's what they were getting at.
Yes. And when you actually see that number, it's not aged great. Although I expected it to be full blackface dance numbers.
Yeah, I think they did actually have black actors doing that.
They did,
or stuntmen at least, or
dancers.
Extras.
Yeah.
Dancers, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
they did for sure, which was a surprise given the wording of that opening credit
and the year in which it was made.
Exactly. Yes.
Anything else for us, Cam?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, in terms of what you were saying about like some of the sets, also the plaster room where they have the fight at the end was really
the
cool.
top floor of the building, or the street level floor. Yeah,
that really jumped out again. Something I hadn't really seen before, but all these like plaster heads, I thought was like really like cool.
When they also use it kind of like, Chekhov's gun. They set it up early in the film when he goes through it, and then they have a shootout in it later where all the heads are exploding because they're just made of like plaster or whatever. So it was a nice setup and payoff of having that in there.
Yeah, and having like the shadows, like the silhouettes of the heads, also made the shootout more confusing, in a sense, in a good way, where you could understand how Conrad Veidt could elude like the bad guy.
And they're playing with the blackout itself because they're not going to turn the light on in that room. So it's all outside light shining in, casting shadows, which allows Conrad Veidt to get around the fight.
Yeah, and of course is able to knock the guy out with the head, and which was a fun like kind of finale to that gag. And we should like actually shout out the cinematographer of the film, which was Freddie Young, who I believe was actually a very legendary cinematographer. Yeah, he's the guy who did Lawrence of Arabia, Dr. Zhivago, also You Only Live Twice. So he has a Bond connection. But
there you go.
Someone who would go on to be incredibly important to the world of cinematography, and he would win 3 Oscars for Lawrence of Arabia, obviously,
Sure.
Dr. Zhivago, and Ryan's Daughter. And I think like when you see a movie like this, which has a much smaller budget, more limited in terms of what he's able to do, you can still see that it's someone who is pushing forward, trying to do cool things, when these are the types of movies that you and I have watched many of at this point in the podcast run, and a lot of them look pretty janky.
Yeah. Well, it also goes to that old dictum of creativity thriving under restriction. You think of like some of these Netflix spy movies that have come out over the last few years where they've just thrown 200 million at it.
Right.
And gone like, oh, we're going to get Gal Gadot to do a ski chase down a hill and all this sort of stuff and hang gliding, blah, blah, blah. And it just doesn't look good.
No.
Because they're just doing it and they don't have to sort of work towards it or figure out any issues. Whereas this, I bet they had barely any money to make it. And so they like, how do we make a film with less money? How about we use less light?
Well, exactly. Yeah.
We call it Blackout. Great.
And I was just checking, Freddie Young did not do The Spy in Black, so that was actually an addition to the team here. But he did reunite with the Archers and do the 49th Parallel a few years later, which is another World War II film about, I believe, German agents trying to make it through Canada. I saw it many years ago. It's a good movie, though.
Last I want to mention, people often say that Roger Moore got his yell, his cry in Octopussy from the Tarzan films. I think he actually got it from this, because if you pay attention during the big brawl, one of the guys on our side does a very similar sounding yell as he charges into battle. So I now like to think that Roger Moore was sort of channeling Blackout / Contraband when he shot Octopussy.
We interrupt this program to bring you a special report.
Agents, we don't expect you to talk. We expect you to buy a subscription to our Patreon.
That's right. Over on the Spy Hard's Patreon, we're covering all your favorite spy TV shows, as well as popular films from the most iconic secret agent actors of all time.
Cam, why don't you share some intel on our latest assignment?
Scott, this year we saw Harrison Ford play the President of the United States, and the results were not so marvelous. But back in the 90s, things were a lot better. So we are going to look this week on the Patreon at the 1997 action smash Air Force One, starring Harrison Ford and Gary Oldman. Does this Wolfgang Peterson thriller still have us screaming hail to the chief? We're going to find out.
So deactivate Ghost Protocol and visit patreon.com/spyhards to truly do things angel style.
But before we close Channel D, on with the Spy Jinx.
Okay, that's the stuff we like. What about the stuff we don't? The stuff that's going to get confiscated here at Customs. I mean, they're about to give us some searches with they've got the gloves out and they're putting a bit of lubricant on it. I'm not sure what they're going to do, so we better get to it. That's just for you, Cam.
There's actually a funny story that when the
Oh,
crew
boy.
and cast were headed to production of this movie, they sent their baggage, in cases and whatever, but marked them as contraband. And the border people had actually fun with that. It would write noted like on the boxes like found explosives and things like that. It would mark the boxes and the suitcases and whatever and ship it to the team.
See, even at war, you can have fun.
That's right. Wartime. They were having a blast.
What a frolic. What a joyous time.
Exactly.
I think that the number one thing with a bullet I want to talk about, and listeners might say this is mildly unfair, but I can only deal with the hand I've been dealt. And that is the transfer of this film that's on YouTube, the two that I looked at. And I'm guessing that's the transfer that's on DVD that you can buy. All of the blackout scenes are very hard to watch.
When you were watching it and you looked it up on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
what title were you watching it under? Like, were you looking for Contraband?
I think so.
There's a better one under Blackout.
Right. Okay. We'll make sure we link the better version then in the show notes.
Yes. Was the audio hiss quite loud when you were watching it?
No. Audio was fine. Audio
Okay.
was perfect. It was just the lack of depth in the scenes where there was black.
Right.
So you'd make out silhouettes. I could tell it was Conrad Veidt or Valerie Hobson, but a lot of the time, and maybe that is part of the film because it is set in blackout, but they're trying to detail stuff and I can't see it. There's a particular scene where they crawl out onto like some metal beams, and I could barely make out there were even beams there.
Oh, are you talking about like the finale where
Mhm.
Hobson and the character
Mr.
of
Pigeon.
Mr. Pigeon are out on the beach? Yeah, that was kind of a clumsy finale, I thought, in terms of the staging.
Yeah, I didn't really get why they sent them out. I suppose to get away from the Germans, but yeah, I don't really get that. But it was more what griped me more is I couldn't see the filmmaking.
Yeah.
And I know they can make good-looking films. They made one the year before.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that the Blackout YouTube file is, working wonders, but I found it to be superior to the things listed under Contraband. So that's the one I'll put in the show notes for sure. But yeah, like I thought that.
Okay, well, you've kind of shot me down on my one, but let me come back with something else, and then
Sure.
we'll chuck yours in. I think this could have done with an ounce more tension.
I agree. Yeah, and that's what I was actually going to pivot and say. Like I thought that finale where you had Hobson and the pigeon character out on that ledge, like it didn't feel like it was building to kind of a tense climax. It was more like, okay, they're standing out there, and then what?
I mean, those who haven't seen the film, the conceit is Conrad Veidt is a captain of a boat. He pulls into the harbour in England, and basically Valerie Hobson's one of his passengers and escapes into London without permission because they're being held at the border with Mr. Pigeon. And as Conrad Veidt is the captain, he's been charged just any of his passengers are his problem. So he goes into London to get them both back to the ship before the next morning when they're the shoreside passes run out, so he doesn't get in trouble with customs. That's your ticking clock, and there literally is a ticking clock in this film several times, but you never feel that sort of overwhelming burden of him wanting to get it back because at several times he's just chilling, eating like foie gras or whatever, or like having a little dance or something. He doesn't feel like he is a man up against it.
No, I agree. Like there is kind of this sense of we're just having fun in this movie to a degree, and that's something that 39 Steps, and I hate to keep going back to that movie, but it's such a superior example. It is also light on its feet, but it does recognize the inherent danger as to what's going on and does amplify the tension as you move forward.
Absolutely.
And I didn't feel that as much here, and which is not great, and also I think maybe that pivots into my dislike, which is that the Van Dyne villain character played by Raymond Lovell is just such a nothing. I can barely remember him sitting here now. And I think if you have, they obviously want to keep the villain a little bit of a secret because that's a reveal later into the movie. but even if it's an actor who has a little more personality, that can go a long ways. And I just never felt that. I don't remember. We did a spy movie. Oh, it wasn't that long ago. It was a Spy Hard special. But the actor who played, I believe it was like a Nazi villain, was someone who was like a character actor who had worked a lot but was not a star by any means. And we were both like, who is this guy? Like, he grabs your attention every time he's on camera. And don't ask me what it was. It's something in the past. But this guy doesn't do that. And I just felt like, oh, like you have Conrad Veidt, who's so distinct looking, so charismatic, so unusual. Like, it makes sense why he's cast as villains all the time. And yet, in this movie, I have someone that's just like, as the villain, like opposite him.
Firstly, was it the chap in Candlelight in Algeria?
Maybe, or maybe it was the bad guy. And no, I don't think so. No, yeah, maybe it was Candlelight in Algeria.
Yeah, Walter Riller was the actor, but I'll have to go back and check the tape. Yeah, he didn't stand out to me at all. There's no like scenery chewing pronunciations or any catchy lines, anything he has. He's just kind of maniacal Nazi.
But he's not dangerous seeming.
No, because he kind of lets them just. He could have just easily killed them at any point, and he just, I'm going to tie you up downstairs.
Yeah, exactly. Which is
it's a real Bond villain out.
Yeah, the Valerie Hobson tie-up.
Yeah.
And
that's another thing I want to mention. Is, I did sort of say it earlier, so I won't dive into it. I feel like taking Valerie Hobson away from the film in the third act was a bit of a mistake, because her cheekiness and camaraderie with Conrad Veidt, especially in the early stages of the film, and they have kind of a tit-for-tat relationship. It's not like they're adoring each other. They're a bit sort of Barbie with each other. Not Barbies and dolls, but they throw barbs at one another.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is missing when you switch Conrad Veidt to sort of action hero mode, and she is damsel in distress in the basement.
Did you buy the kiss?
Kind of.
Yeah, it was okay.
They're good actors, so I was like, yeah.
We've seen worse examples of the sudden romance.
Yeah, like ours.
That's right, but there's been a couple Spy Hard specials where it was like, get out of here.
Yeah, for sure.
I was also feeling like I missed Mr. Pigeon, who I thought was set up really
I was about
fun.
to mention Mr. Pigeon.
Yeah, like he's there as like a talent scout, and he's kind of like sniffy and
reading Variety magazine. And,
I thought he was so much fun in his introduction when Conrad Veidt's character is interrogating everyone. Like I just was like, oh, Mr. Pigeon's really fun. Oh, Mr. Pigeon has flown the coop. That's hilarious. Like, the idea that that's the guy who flees from this Danish ship. I was like, okay, that's great. And then he kind of amounts to nothing at all.
Well, he's a real damsel in distress at the end. He's not even like an active participant in the rescue. He's just he's captured and then picked up.
Yeah, and he doesn't contribute anything. Like, I thought that was someone who was legitimately funny in his first scene, and then they never really exploited that ever again.
I don't know what to tell you. It feels like a bit of a waste. And I will also say, like, calling him Mr. Pigeon is kind of intriguing. Like, you think there might be more to it, and then there really just isn't.
Yeah, I know, right? Like,
I think it was just there to do the whole float in the nest joke.
Probably. And, that actor, Esmond Knight, would work with Powell and Pressburger on The Red Shoes, as well as Black Narcissus later down the road. He was also one of his final credits, Scott. And this is a stay tuned on the Patreon, folks. He played Second Elder in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace.
Oh, boy. That's his final credit.
Final theatrical film, actually. Yeah.
Really went out on a high.
Not an all-time high, though.
No. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Mr. Pigeon.
Should they have made that the tagline of the movie?
It couldn't have got any worse.
Right? Like, if they had sold it off of his performance in Contraband, a.k.a. Blackout, that would be the most insane marketing pitch ever.
Like, I bet you a few oldies would have turned up.
You think?
To see it. Yeah, a couple.
That movie?
I think this film did well enough.
47 years earlier.
Yeah, but that's why I said oldies and not, skibbity toilet watching 18-year-olds.
Although I say that, and look at how they like drop someone from the original Star Wars trilogy into a new one, and it makes like a $2 billion. If you throw people from 40-something-year-old movies back into a big film.
I think there's a little bit more reverence for the Star Wars trilogy than Contraband / Blackout.
No, Scott. Let's follow down this road. The iconic character of Mr. Pigeon in Blackout, aka Contraband, is very well remembered and revered.
Would it be The Finch Awakens?
I suppose it would be.
Can we do any more bird Star Wars puns?
I don't think so. Rise of the Skylark?
Oh, I was going to say Revenge of the Sparrow.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was a fun dalliance. Well, let's just do final notes and go to the knock list. A couple of interesting things. One, this is in the IMDb credits, and I did notice it in the film, and I wrote it down in my notes. I don't have any backup, and I can't go through every other film that happened before Doctor No to make sure this is true or not. But someone alleges that this is the first time in a spy movie someone goes, it's last name, first name, last name.
Yeah.
The name's Anderson, Hans Anderson.
I saw that on IMDb as well. Maybe.
Like, if that is true, what a calling card.
Yeah, that may be.
Was Sylvia Trench watching this on television in her hotel room before she came down to the ambassadors and played Baccarat? Who knows?
I mean, Powell and Pressburger. So it's not like it's... Because some of the movies we tackle on here are hella obscure. Like, completely forgotten, directed by journeymen who no one remembers.
From Russia with Love, like, what's that?
Well, exactly. That's not the case with this movie. Like, this is part of a catalog to very esteemed filmmakers. Is it impossible that someone saw this movie and that led to the Bond thing? I guess it's not impossible.
I'm not claiming it to be true. I'm just saying, if it is, that's cool. If it's not, okay.
Okay, indeed.
Another thing I noticed is they are both tied up in the boiler room on a vent.
Yeah.
Which we will then see again in To Trap a Spy.
That's right, yeah. AKA Solo, the premiere of The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Or The Vulcan Affair.
Vulcan Affair as well. I'm sure that this has probably been used in other spy movies that we just haven't gotten to, but...
I'm not claiming this is the first time it's happened. It's just
Yeah. No, I thought that was fun as well.
I'm sure it happened in Batman as well in the 60s.
Probably. Who did it better, Uncle or this?
Uncle.
Yeah, Uncle. Like the whole bit with Napoleon Solo, like kicking that vent.
That whole scene is great. It's one of the best, like, tense moments in any of the Uncle films we've seen so far.
I mean, think about that moment and contrast it to the other Uncle movies we've watched since.
Like the bar fight with the old Irish gangsters or whatever.
Italian.
It was.
They were Italian gangsters.
Italian, sorry, not Irish. Yeah, you're right. Italian gangsters. Sorry, Ireland and Italy, don't come after me. I mentioned the names of the clubs they went to. Did you want to hear them all?
Sure.
The first one was the white N-word, which I'm not going to say. The second one was the Silver Cowshed. Quite like that one. Feels like a Vegas casino.
Mm.
The third one was the Garden of Eden. The fourth was the Mousetrap, which I'm assuming is named after the play that was also running in London at that point. And the last one is the Banana Grove.
Okay.
Which one would you go to? Probably not the first one.
Probably not the first. Garden of Eden, maybe?
Yeah, if it has like a floral theme to it, maybe.
Yeah.
What sounds like the most respite during war?
Oh, that's a Garden of Eden.
Yeah. Oh, Cab was right on that. He's like, I'm wearing a loincloth right now. I'm going to the Garden of Eden. I'm going to eat that apple.
Like, who wants to go to the Mousetrap?
It sounds like it might sting.
It does indeed, yeah.
Oh, it does. You've been caught before. You can't resist that bit of cheese that you put out for yourself.
I mean, after you've had a mouse invasion in your house, you never want to hear the word mouse ever again.
Oh, I've had mice before. I lived in London.
Yeah.
I still do, but I used to live in Central, and you will always get mice.
Yeah. It'll haunt you.
It used to be in an old house of ours. We used to have one of those like open plan kitchen and front room things.
Right.
So we'd have our dinner and sit down on the couch to watch a bit of dinner. Watch a bit of dinner? Yeah, watch a bit of our dinner. Admiring our dinner before we ate it. Now watch a bit of television after dinner. And especially in winter, you just hear like
Yep.
in the background. It's like, oh,
Yep.
I know what that is. Once, this is a true story. Hannah, who you all know, joined us for the Black Bag episode, is now my wife. At the time, she was my girlfriend. And she didn't know we had mice problems at the time. She woke up and got some slices of bread out, made some toast. Because, well, yeah, everyone loves toast. And then about 4 hours later, was violently sick everywhere.
Yeah.
And she couldn't figure it out. And she came home, and I was at work. And she found that a mouse had been eating the other side of the bread
Ugh.
through the bag and had nibbled on basically every single slice. And she had eaten the bread that the mouse had eaten and I assume left its mark upon.
Oh, yeah.
So she had some regrets and has since never trusted loaves of bread. So she always checks the packaging now. She learned that lesson.
It's a good idea because I work in a bakery and bread is a huge target for that sort of thing. But I remember like it was just like this past actually October that I guess they got into my storage facility downstairs in the basement.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say generations of mice were born and raised in my Halloween decorations.
And have they since all been thrown away?
Oh, yeah. But I brought the bag upstairs and was pulling things out, and it was like, what is that smell? Oh, my God. And then realized there was a hole in the bag, and stuff was dumping out of the bag, and oh, it was awful. It was awful. So, yes, basically, in short, I'm not going to the mousetrap.
I think that is a fair choice. What about you? Any final notes for us?
I think every boat should have a glockenspiel player walking around.
Was there a glockenspiel in the film?
The guy who's like walking, going, ding, ding, ding.
No, I know what a glockenspiel is. I just don't remember
You
it.
don't?
Oh,
How
of
could you?
course. No, it's on the boat. You're right. Yes. That's like an old tannoy system, I suppose.
I guess, but that was incredible.
Cam is a big glockenspiel fan.
Like, when I get older, that's the job I want.
You want to go onto the tannoy like in supermarkets and just be like, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah,
But not do the announcement, just do that.
yeah. It'd be great.
It's kind of like those people that like used to go around before we had alarm clocks and they would do spitballs at people's windows to wake them up.
Mm-hmm.
Or they would do spitballs. They like spit rocks
Yeah,
through
yeah.
a straw.
Right.
So you're going to travel from supermarket to supermarket and play your bing bong
That's right.
and then move on to the next one.
I think that my future is set.
What a legacy you'd leave. Cam, the bing bong man, Smith.
I mean, I've already had that nickname for a while, but that would actually justify it. So I also liked, in terms of spycraft, the code being inside the cigarette like that.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's the part where, I can't remember who it is, but maybe it's Valerie Hobson, but it's caught and is like, oh, can I have a cigarette? And the idea would be that you'd smoke quickly as a courtesy, but smoke up the code. I thought that was kind of fun.
It's not something we've seen very often. There's actually a little bit of intricate spy in this story. I also quite like it was like maybe it was bad tradecraft that the cigarette paper was like watermarked with her code.
Sure.
That was probably not the best idea, but yeah, it was cool to see.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Anything else for us, Cameron?
I did laugh a lot at Conrad Veidt investigating Valerie Hobson's character's room and like smelling the perfume and then like pulling out the scarf, the sheer scarf, and being like, ah. And then like, I think one of his crewmen walks in or something like that, or he quickly removes himself. But I was like, okay, Conrad Veidt, you do a slight twist on that scene to the classic Conrad Veidt character type, and that just became the most unsettling, terrifying thing you've ever seen in your life.
Like he sniffs it and then turns around and does his like laughing man face.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, creepy. Well, Cam, let's get on with it. We're almost through the checkpoint now. Knock list, the final question. What do you think, yes or no, is Contraband joining the knock list alongside its brother-in-arms, the Spy in Black?
And also the 39 Steps is also on the knock list. I'm going to say no to this one. I think it's enjoyable. It's fun. We'll probably reference it in the future as a fun 1940s wartime spy film worth going back to. But is it a essential spy film or one that you would give on a list to, someone who is new to the genre? I don't think so. I think actually The Spy in Black is the superior film and the one that might then make them interested in checking this one out. But this is not one worthy of being on the forefront of the list.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I mean, it's interesting that, like, I didn't make the screening, but The Spy in Black has played twice in the last few years here at the BFI in London.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a screening for Contraband / Blackout.
Yeah. I just think, like, this was viewed as kind of the lesser of the two. Not significantly lesser, but, it's kind of the fun caper versus the one that is maybe more artistically impressive.
I feel like they just wanted to go for a tonally different film, and they did. They achieved that, but it just wasn't as good as its predecessor. But it also wasn't trying to be. So, a lot of that criticism is probably unfair, but it's hard when you've got the exact same cast and people behind the scenes. So, but to answer the question, is it one of the best spy movies of all time? It's a no from me. Definitely enjoyed moments of it. I think Conrad Veidt is a star. I want to see more of his films. But yeah, this is not something I would instantly recommend. I mean, we have our new WhatsApp group that's doing really well. Lots of people in there talking about spy movies. I recently recommended The Spy in Black to a few people who hadn't seen it before, and they all loved it. So maybe this will be right up their alley. Maybe they'll want to see more of that. But yeah, it's definitely not one you should run to.
No. But fun movie worth watching.
More memorable than some of the other World War II spy propaganda films we've seen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, some of these things can get pretty creaky. And like Lancer Spy, for example, jumps to mind. But what was the one? Oh, British Intelligence. That one was real creaky.
Is that the one with Boris Karloff in?
That's right, yeah. And like radio signals.
Yes, I recall that. But there have been some good ones as well. It's a mixed bag, but there were a lot of spy movies around this point in time. So there'll be a lot more for us to discuss in the future. Our film list is full of stuff from the mid-40s.
And they were cranked out fast in that time period. Like, just tons and tons and tons of them, yeah.
But there you go, 2 no's. Unfortunately, Contraband / Blackout is not making the knock list. The dossier on the film is complete and filed as classified. Thank you all for tuning in. Cam, let's crack open another crate. I think we have something interesting happening next week.
Well, Scott, Contraband showed us a man of the sea taking action. Of course, the beloved character played by Conrad Veidt. But next week, we're going to look at an individual who wants to live beneath the sea, because we are going to tackle 1977's The Spy Who Loved Me, the third Roger Moore Bond film. This is going to be big, and of course, that is a Stromberg reference for you all.
I was genuinely on tenterhooks there. I had no idea where you were going. I thought you were going to talk about the skydive and shooting off into the sky.
No.
And you went under the sea. You went with his webbed hands and all kinds of nonsense.
That's right, yes.
Okay, well, guys, from a Spy Hard special to a film that is truly special, we're going to be taking a look at The Spy Who Loved Me, but we're doing it with a bit of a twist. We're making the whole month of July about The Spy Who Loved Me. We're talking about a review next week and a collection of interviews all throughout the month of July. July is also the month that The Spy Who Loved Me came out, so we're timing it perfectly with its anniversary. We are going to celebrate the film. By the end of July, you will love The Spy Who Loved Me even more. You don't think you could. Trust me, you will.
Or you'll be like, I don't love that spy anymore. I'm tired and I need a break.
You're like, nor does England.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I am so excited for you all to join us next week as we do the review, and then join us for the rest of the month with the interviews. More details to come as to who the interviews are. I'm not going to give it all away. I want you to anticipate. I want theories. I want to have messages and emails from you. Like, who do you think we're going to have on? Let us know who you want to have on about The Spy Who Loved Me. And we might just have some surprises in there too. And we're doing it a bit differently. You know, usually we'll do a Bond review and maybe one interview or two. But Cam and I are fans of that film. Certainly, we'll get into why perhaps next week. And it's its anniversary. We thought we would go big. And we are going to celebrate The Spy Who Loved Me in a fashion in which it deserves. So your mission, folks, should you choose to accept it, is to get down with us. Join us next week for the whole month of July as we celebrate The Spy Who Loved Me, a pure, unadulterated slice of Rogertainment, if I ever did see one myself. And if you've made it through this entire episode and you're not a member of our Patreon, I've got questions for you. Firstly, where the hell are you? Come and join us over on patreon.com/spyhards. Bunch of bonus episodes, but mostly you're helping keep us on the air. Paying for Spyhards in a little bit. Tiny little sums, but they go a long way. We'd love to have you over there. Join us over on social media, especially throughout the month of July. There's going to be all sorts of Bond content you're all going to love, as well as we're going to be talking about Contraband this week as well. If you want some Conrad Veidt facts, you want to know a little bit more about who said last name, first name, last name first? Well, we'll get into that discussion online. Let us know who you think might have done it first. I want to hear from you. Find us at Spyhards, SPYHARDS, wherever you get your social media. But until next time, folks, some wise words that I often tell my wife. Remember, the smaller the ship, the bigger the adventure.